When you think of first aid, you might always associate it with doctors or other medical professionals. But that's not always true. Let's look at it from another perspective, the perspective of teachers. Teachers are a crucial part of today's education system. They're individuals who dedicate their lives to improving the lives of their students through teaching, support, and counseling. Today, we'll see how first aid plays a role in the lives of these educators.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Burke. I'm the associate principal here at Independence High School. And for me, first aid is exactly what it says. It's giving aid in a situation where someone has injury or medical issues and you're the first one there. So you are rendering that help and that aid until medical personnel can arrive.
My definition of first aid is simply just basic, just like very basic medical practices that anyone can do. Like from, helping somebody that got a cut on their arm or a bruise needing an ice pack or, maybe it's something maybe a little more extraneous if you've learned how to do CPR, maybe being able to actually do CPR, that kind of thing.
How do you think having first aid knowledge comes in handy in your everyday life?
So I think as an educator, my top priority has always been student and staff safety and well-being. And you have to have that before, high levels of learning can happen. And so as someone who has given my life to helping people in the educational realm, first aid is a part of that because, I've received different trainings. We have to do, like diabetic training, that sort of thing in the school, but all kinds of different aspects of first aid training. And I believe that it's my job to give whatever support and aid I can to have staff and students' safety and welfare be a priority until our nurse or EMT or whatever can arrive. And I've had to do that several times in my career, whether it's, something minor like, a nosebleed or, something major where someone, is having allergic reaction or whatever sort of medical emergency. I have loved having the training so that I'm confident in a situation, knowing that I can be helpful until people with even more training than me arrive.
How has the knowledge of first aid really helped you in your everyday life?
Okay, first aid has been, it's a useful skill in everyday life, just from, back when I lifeguarded, a kid slipped and cut themselves, being able to simply clean the wound, prevent it from getting infected, wrapping it, or whatever the case is. Or recently currently, earlier this year, I should say, I had a student who accidentally bumped his head on the bulkhead and he had a cut, and so that was able to pull it out and had him get out of the pool, so administer first aid, prevent it from, him getting infected or, anything serious badly happening.
I had a student that had epilepsy, and I was called to the classroom, and I was able to do the immediate things from the training, clear everyone out, clear things around, do, safety things to make sure that the student, was breathing and all of those sorts of things until the nurse arrived and then the EMTs arrived. So again, it's kind of like the last answer. It's like I was able to not only be there as an emotional support, but do the first things that were necessary until the people with the medicine and the more medical support could arrive.
Could you recount a time where first aid has made a difference in your life or someone else's life? For example, when one of your swimmers got hurt, when they hit their head?
Yeah. It's definitely made a difference in my life because I've been able to help others that have injured themselves. Maybe obviously not purposely because accidents happen. Also, I've been able to help myself. Like I remember I cut myself real bad when I was in college with a pair of scissors on accident, and I needed stitches. But luckily, since I knew how to do first aid, I was able to prevent it from getting infected. I was able to, stop the bleeding enough to where I was able to get to the doctor to get stitches.
Often, individuals may reduce first aid to a skill that they once learned in passing during their education. However, first aid can also prove useful for your future career.
Do you think that first aid is has any impact on your resume?
Sure, because I think that, whether it's been in my educational career or, when I retire from here, I think it's just a solid, well-known training that you can put on your resume and say, not only do I have, these degrees and this sort of thing, but I have these trainings that make me useful, helpful, confident in an emergency situation. So absolutely.
I think it's a useful skill to have on your resume, even if you don't end up having to use it. It's still something useful to have. There's lots of different jobs that require it. Especially if you're working with kids or you're doing social work, that kind of stuff. Typically, a lot of the time they're going to require it. And plus, it's just a helpful skill to have.
Sometimes there are certain things that prevent people from learning useful skills like first aid. Let's learn a little bit more about what those are.
What do you think prevents people from attempting to obtain a first aid certification?
Part of it maybe they just don't know how to get it. I think, for instance, for me, I know how to get it because I need it for my job or I need it for past jobs. But I feel like a lot of people just don't know where even to start, where to sign up for a course, that kind of thing.
So ultimately, is first aid an important skill to have?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's important because it's a really concrete, educated way that we can help others. And like I said, back circle to my first answer about, safety and well-being and care for people.